History 1. When I was a kid, I had a bedroom on the first floor. Money was tight, and our mom was taking care of 4 kids. I was the youngest, so I got the smallest room. My room was next to the living room, a small square space with wooden floors. There were 2 big vents in the floor, 1 in each corner, and 2 more vents in the ceiling. My bed took up half the room. Like I said, it was a tiny room. I'll keep it straight to the point. I was 13 years old, doing my homework on my bed since I didn't have a desk. Suddenly I heard a child's laughter. I went out of my room to check the living room and kitchen, looking for my siblings. Everyone seemed to be upstairs, though. Usually in these stories, people say they chalk these things up to their imagination, but that's nonsense. I definitely heard that laughter. There's no way I imagined something so clear. I kept on with my homework but listened closely for any other suspicious sounds. After some time, I managed to push it to the back of my mind. Just when I started to get over it, I heard it again. A child's laughter, or more like giggling this time. It went on longer than before. It wasn't coming from outside my room, it was inside. I thought one of my brothers was playing a trick on me. I followed the sound to the corner of my room, then looked down at the vent in the floor. The laughter was coming from inside the vent. I got down on my knees and pressed my ear up to the vent, but the giggling stopped. There was silence for a few seconds. I lifted my ear and put my eyes up to the vent, trying to peek inside. It took me a second to realize I was staring at a pair of eyes looking back at me. I shrieked like a girl and screamed for my mom. She came rushing into my room moments later, but the noises were gone, and so were the eyes. Mom thought I was going crazy due to lack of sleep, but I refused to sleep in that room. She let me sleep in her room that night. That went on for a week until she put her foot down. I spent the next 4 years in that bedroom before we moved, and nothing paranormal ever happened to me again after that one night. History 2. I'm 24 years old, living with my brother Tommy in a house we share. Never had anything severely strange or abnormal happen to me in my life, but there was this one week where I experienced a strange series of events. It started on what I thought would be a normal night like any other. I was in the kitchen, washing the dishes before getting ready for bed. Suddenly, a plastic cup came crashing to the floor, and the sound of it made me jump and spin around from the sink. I saw the red plastic cup bounce a few times, then fall dead on the floor. This was one of the cups that sits up on top of the cabinet. I knew it had to have been sitting upright, though I had no idea what kind of force could have knocked it off the cabinet. It made no logical sense. I picked it up and put it back on the cabinet. That wasn't the last strange event that night, though. While in bed with the blinds shut, there was suddenly a strange, very faint glow in my room. It came through the blinds. I flipped over onto my side and tried to peek under the crack at the bottom of the blinds, but I couldn't see anything. Honestly, as weird as it was, I was so comfortable in bed and too lazy to go lift the blinds. I dismissed the light as something like a street light having a new bulb or something. I know, a little ridiculous, but at the time I had no reason to suspect anything paranormal. The next day, I was home alone while Tommy was at work. It was a dark, stormy day, and the house was constantly rumbling from the thunder. So when I heard a cup fall from the kitchen, I associated it with the thunder. I went to the kitchen to pick it up, and realized it was the same red plastic cup I had carefully put back on the cabinet yesterday. There was no way thunder could have knocked it down from where it was. I put it on the counter and stood there, confused and a bit shaken, looking around the kitchen, not knowing what to think. As I was standing in the kitchen, I heard a creak in the floor above me. The room above me was actually my bedroom. I went to the stairs and called up for Tommy, but I instantly remembered he wasn't home. Maybe it was the thunder shaking the whole house, but still, I had to check my room just for peace of mind. I went up the stairs to my room and turned on the lights, given that all the rooms in the house were dark due to the weather. My room is square-shaped with 2 big closets. The room was clear, as were the closets, so I shut the light and went back downstairs. That night, when Tommy got home, I had a discussion with him about the strange events that had been taking place. He said he hadn't been aware of any of it. Still, nothing that happened up until that point was extremely unusual. For the rest of the night, things were normal, and I fell asleep with ease. I awoke at some odd hour in the night. It was still dark. I checked my phone. It was 2 a.m. I rolled back on my side and shut my eyes when I heard the distinct sound of a finger tapping on a window. I could feel my heart in my throat. I didn't know why someone would be knocking at my window, but I didn't want to see who could be out there. But for some reason it took me that long to realize I was on the second floor of the house. Therefore nobody could be on the outside of my window. I pushed the sheets off my body and turned to face the window. There was no one standing there on the inside, though. So I lifted the blind, and there was no one outside either. Still, I knew that I heard what I heard, and I knew I hadn't been imagining or dreaming it. I ran to my brother's room and started freaking out. I don't know whether he believed me or not. Quite frankly, I don't think I'd believe me if I hadn't experienced it. I slept in the living room that night, and it's been 3 weeks now without any paranormal incidents. I never believed in the supernatural until this happened. History 3. When I was 22, I worked maintenance and custodial at a daycare down the block. My job included trash disposal, setting up furniture for events, performing preventative maintenance, organizing supplies, and keeping the place clean. I also had to ensure a safe environment, which meant reporting any suspicious activities that might lead to child abuse or mistreatment. Some days, I even opened and closed the facility. It was a demanding job since it was just me and an older guy, Jim, who was more or less my boss. Most of the time, I'd lock up as he left earlier. The daycare was on the grounds of a Catholic school and church, but it was open to anyone, regardless of religion. One Friday, Jim left early as usual. He told me what needed to be done before cleaning up. I had to start with the usual classroom cleanups, pack the remaining Thanksgiving decorations, and bring them down to the basement. Then, I had to start bringing up the Christmas crates. These crates contained decorations for the entire building, from the lobby to the hallways and classrooms. The childcare staff would do the decorating, but it was my job to handle the crates. By the time I got started, it was dark outside, and everyone else had left. I locked all the doors and went down to the basement. The basement was mostly for storage, especially since it was cold out and past outdoor play season. It was filled with outdoor toys like plastic slides and toy cars that kids would move with their feet. The basement had a hallway passing the boiler room and hot water heaters, leading to a storage room. This room had a creepy vibe due to poor lighting, just dim corner lights and a small hallway light. The ceiling was low, so I had to crouch in spots since I'm 6'3". During the day, small windows made it decently bright, but it was dark now, so I used a flashlight. I brought the Thanksgiving containers down one by one, placing them near the front of the basement out of laziness. I was ready to start my weekend. As I lugged a Christmas container up the stairs, I heard a kid's voice and laughter. It was muffled, but I knew what I heard. I stopped and looked around, checking every classroom, the playroom, the art room, and the bathrooms, but found no kids. I kept hearing that muffled voice, so I checked the basement. At the basement door, I looked down the stairs and waited. I heard a noise and realized a kid might be down there. I ran down, yelling, "Who's down there?" thinking a kid had snuck down. In the storage room, I saw a toy car move for a second before stopping, as if it had just been pushed. I stood in place, looking around, but saw no kids. I called out, "Anyone down here?" But it was dead silent. The silence was deafening. I started checking inside boxes, thinking a kid might be hiding, but realized no kid could close these containers on themselves. I felt alone, but also not alone. It's hard to explain. Then I heard something plastic drop behind me. Without a draft in the basement, I didn't even turn to look. I fled upstairs, stopping at the top and hearing a child's whisper. I slammed the door shut and called Jim, who told me to call the police if I thought a kid was down there. I didn't think there was a kid, but I called 911 anyway. The cops found nothing but boxes and decorations. Nothing could have made that plastic sound, and no kids were reported missing. The cops felt I wasted their time, but I was too disturbed to be embarrassed. I quit right before Christmas, never going back to that basement again. This happened not too long ago. I live alone in my apartment. I don't take any medication or have any condition that impairs my awareness or causes hallucinations. This night was a one-time incident that I can't explain, and I hope it stays that way. After a long day as a construction worker and hitting the gym 4 to 5 days a week, I was exhausted. One night I stopped for food on my way home, too tired to cook. I got home, plopped my Chipotle on the ottoman, and laid out on the couch to eat. It was late in the week, and I was tiring out. After eating, I fell asleep on the couch watching TV. I woke up a few hours later around 11 p.m., still comfortable under my blanket. I realized I left my contacts in, so I went to the bathroom to take them out, then headed to my bedroom. Walking to my room, I heard my name called from the living room. I thought, what the actual fuck? It was a female's voice. I turned back, flicked on the light, but everything was blurry. I asked, "Who was that? Mom?" No answer. I got my glasses from my room and returned to the living room. I was alone. My apartment is small VDJ, just a kitchen-living room combo, my bedroom and a bathroom. Not many places to hide. I called my mom, waking her up, confirming she wasn't here. I chalked it up to a brain fart moment and went to bed, though it was harder to fall asleep. I kept thinking about hearing my name. As I was finally drifting off, I heard my name again, this time from inside the bedroom. I flipped over, seeing a big, tall, human-shaped mass a few feet from my bed. I saw long hair and barely visible distorted facial features. I screamed, fumbling for the light switch or my glasses, knocking over the lamp. When I turned on the light, there was nothing there. I put on my glasses and searched every nook and cranny under the bed, the closets, the dresser, then the rest of the apartment. I was alone. I felt like I was losing my mind. I convinced myself I hallucinated due to lack of sleep or overworking. When I tell people, I downplay it, saying I hallucinated once. I don't detail how real it felt, as some people doubt or think I was on drugs. It was the scariest, most surreal moment of my life, hallucination or not. History 4. I once took a road trip from New Hampshire to Florida. I had to stop at a hotel to sleep overnight when I was about halfway there. It was an old, somewhat dilapidated hotel that rested off the highway on a quiet road. There were only 2 cars in the parking lot, so there were definitely not many guests. The lady at the front desk was very robotic and seemed bored with her job. She fit the atmosphere of the hotel perfectly. The lobby was full of tacky chairs and tables you'd expect to find put out on the curb. The wallpaper was all dated and equally tacky. It didn't matter, though. I wasn't staying there for the luxury, just for the night and for the convenience. It was late when I checked in, so when I got to the room, all I did was take out my toothbrush and brush my teeth before jumping into the bed. I turned out the lamp next to the bed and tried to go to sleep, not looking forward to the long day of driving ahead of me. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. I looked at the bedside clock to be sure and saw that it was almost midnight. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. Apparently, the peephole didn't work because I couldn't see into the hallway through it. All I saw was black. I looked down at the crack under the door but didn't see any outlines of feet blocking the light. So, I opened the door just a little bit to peek into the hallway. I didn't see anyone standing in front of the door. I opened it fully and then peeked down both sides of the hallway. It was clear, so I had to question if someone in this relatively vacant hotel was pranking me. I shut the door, locked it with the bolt this time, and went to lay back down in the bed. But then it happened again. A knock at the door. This time, I jumped out of the bed and ran to the door. I checked the peephole again. Shockingly, all I saw was the empty hallway outside. But it hit me. This time, I could actually see through the peephole. I unbolted the door and opened it. No one. I looked down both sides of the hallway again, and there was no one. This was where I drew the line. I grabbed the key to the room and went to the lady at the front desk. I told her someone kept knocking on my door and politely asked her to check the cameras to see who it could be. She said they didn't have cameras in the hallways. Her reaction also wasn't what I was hoping for. She seemed very calm and unconcerned with what I told her. She said in a calm voice that there was only one other guest in the whole building. Then she just stared blankly at me. I'm not sure how she thought her response properly acknowledged my concern, or what she expected me to say, but I could tell she wouldn't be of any help. So I left her and went back to my room. I locked the door with the bolt again. This time I put on my headphones and played one of those 10-hour sleep relaxation videos on YouTube. This would not only help me get to sleep but also block out any possible future sounds from whoever was deciding to mess with me. And it worked for a while at least. Eventually I flipped from my side to my back and just looked around the room. My head froze when I was staring at the corner. I sat up to try to get a closer look at what I thought I was seeing. I swear it looked like a giant humanoid figure, like a 10-foot-tall human standing right in the corner, head to the ceiling. When I put that image together in my head, I felt a sudden rush of horror in my body. I jumped across the bed to flick on the lamp, but when the room lit up, there was nothing in that corner. I simply sat there with my heart beating probably 200 beats per minute. I gave myself a couple of minutes to calm down before shutting the light back off and laying back down on my side. I still had the headphones in my ears playing the relaxation video. It helped calm me down a little bit. I didn't last even 2 minutes without sitting back up and examining the room again. However, there it was in the corner, what looked to be a 10-foot-tall humanoid figure. I crawled to the edge of the bed to get as close a look as I could before practically jumping out of my skin. I saw what I was sure was a long arm at the side moving. I dove to turn on the lamp again, and the corner was empty again. I didn't stick around that time. I packed up my few things in a matter of seconds and left the room. I gave the key to the woman and said, "I'm checking out early." She didn't even say a word as I stormed out the front door of the hotel. I continued driving until I found another hotel where I fell fast asleep with no supernatural disturbances.